Gary Anderson here, won a European Tour event in Dusseldorf last year, and will be looking to enjoy more success in Germany this evening. Standing in his way though, Ian White from Stoke-on-Trent, who hit 7 180s and beat Robert Thornton 6-3 with an average of 104.3. So again, to complete the quarter-final lineup, Rod, two players on very good form this weekend here in Germany.
Looking forward to this one, Mike. And we've said so often about the pace of players. And again, this one matches up absolutely perfect for both of them. We know what this man Gary Anderson can do, a joy to watch when he's on fire. Everybody knows who Gary Anderson is, the Flying Scotsman. Not many people know about Ian White, but he is the most improved player. As Robert, our director, just follows the girls down the stairs, just to put a little bit of colour in the evening instead of us keep watching the dart players. Puts a smile on our face anyway, Mike, doesn't it? As I was saying about Ian White, Robert, I should say, our director, did I say Roger? Ian White, he's not known to everybody, but he's one of the most improved players over the last 2 years on the PDC circuit. And he's got one of the most solid throws you will see. Really has a lovely throw. And the one thing I like about Ian White's throw is when he pulls the dart back to under his chin, there is a split-second stop to make sure it's in the right position. And it's lovely. It isn't forced. You'll never see him use the shoulder in what we call the shot, the action, where Gary Anderson at times will give a little bit of a push. You can see his head move up at times. Ian White, he never has that problem.
Well, Ian White saw off Dean Winstanley 6-5 in the second round and then beat Robert Thornton, as I say, banging in 7 180s in a 6-3 win. Gary Anderson whitewashed Glenn Spearing of Ireland 6-0 in his second round match and then beat the Wanderer Wayne Jones. Wayne Jones had earlier seen off Peter Wright, the number 3 seed, 6-4. But Anderson overcoming Jones to book his place in this quarter-final tie, where the winner will be up against Rocket Ronnie Baxter, who's just beaten Raymond van Barneveld.
Well, Gary Anderson is the only Premier League player left in. Am I right in saying that? I think I am, aren't I?
Yes, you are right.
Well, he's got to be careful here because Ian White is no mug. Just to remind you again, Premier League starts live on Sky Sports, 7 o'clock this coming Thursday, live from the Echo Arena. And there are still tickets available for some of the arenas as Ian White takes out the 62 to go 1-0 up against Gary Anderson. That was with the throw, so Anderson won't panic. As I was going to say, there are tickets available to a venue near you. If you go on the pdc.tv website, it will give you all the information of where the arenas are and how you get the tickets.
Well, after the third round this afternoon, backstage a few of us were chatting with the crew and we were looking at the quarter-final lineup and predicting who would come out on top in the semis and the final. And I don't think any of us would have come up with the semi-final lineup of Klassen, Pipe, Baxter,
and possibly White. Yeah, we don't really know anything about the game. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well,
I think what that says, Mike, is what we've been saying for a long time, that the standard in the game is so strong right the way down the rankings now, and the bloke who's number 32 can take on the best player in the world and beat him, where back in the 80s and 90s that didn't happen that often.
Ross Bray just checking the scores. It is 144 for the Diamond from Stoke-on-Trent. Wants double 12 for a 1-4-4 out shot.
Well, we talked about the 12 darters, Mike, and that's exactly what Ian White has done. He's fired in a 12 dart leg, taken out the 1-4-4 to go 2-0 up on Gary Anderson. And certainly now Anderson has got to find that prolific scoring power that he possesses.
Yes, he took just 10 minutes to win his opening round match against Glen Spearing 6-0, Gary Anderson. 108.6 he averaged in that game.
Not the sort of score that Gary Anderson wanted. He's making it a bit too easy for this man Ian White at the moment. Well, Gary Anderson yet to hit a treble, I should say a big treble in this match. Well, it took him 8 darts to hit the treble 20.
White won a Players' Championship event in Wigan last November, and on the way to that victory beat Gary Anderson 6-0 in the semi-final. Anderson's last big win against Ian White was in the UK Open back in 2011.
Well, that certainly sets it up for Ian White. Gary Anderson now the big 18. He's put some pressure on, but the way Ian White is playing, Gary Anderson's got to hope he misses to get back in this game. Double 16, no problem for Ian White, looking very dangerous. He's Diamond White. And Gary Anderson now under a bit of pressure to hold on to his throw.
Yes, fantastic chance for Ian White to reach a European Tour semi-final. But we've seen matches turn around this weekend. So Anderson will keep plugging away, but that average of White, 103.5, reflecting how he's come out of the traps flying tonight.
Yes, Gary's got to just up his average by another 6 points per dart. This doesn't sound a lot, but I can assure you it is. Like I've said so many times, when you possess the scoring power that Anderson does, it's like a turbocharge. Once it's turned on, it really does run hot. But at the moment, it's running a little bit lukewarm, isn't it?
So he'll be first down to a double here, Anderson. You would expect to stop the rot and get a leg on the board. He's hit a big 11 there, 63 left. Bullseye.
27.
Well, he took a 1-4-4 out. It's a little bit different in as much as he would have to switch on the trebles. And he's going to set it up, and Anderson comes back with only 2 darts at a double. He missed the dart at the bullseye and hit the small 3, so 7 for double top to put his first leg on the board.
And still can't do it. So Ian White stepping up, and Ross Spray just checking the score. It is actually 60 that White needs, so single 24, double 20 for a surprise 4-0 lead here. Double 10. Double 5 now for Ando. Good mark up.
At last, a leg goes on the board for Gary Anderson as he wipes his brow as he walks back, and a little smile there. And sometimes that's all it needs, is a little bit of turn of luck to get yourself back in the game. Now, that's the opening even after the first 3 darts. Wow, that was a flyer, wasn't it?
And even psychologically, there's a big difference between 4-0 and 3-1. And can Anderson break White's throw here to go 3-2? And then who knows? The big treble's just eluding Ian White. He hopes temporarily.
96. Well, you're right about that psychological side of things. I mean, that double 5 is worth 2 legs actually to Gary Anderson. 4-0 to 3-1. Massive difference. So top of the shop here for Gary Anderson, and if he hits the 2 trebles, he will go for it as well. That's 1 in, moves across to the left, and pulls a 5. That could be a massive mistake from Anderson, because comes back with only perhaps 1 dart at the bullseye. And if Ian White can just pick up the treble 20, which he's done.
And all of a sudden, things are looking brighter in the Anderson camp. Back to 3-2 and throwing first here.
While the turbo is probably 50% on at the moment, it wasn't on at the beginning of the game. But we can see signs that it's running a bit richer now. Well, another good visit to the board from Gary Anderson. It is on his throw. And at one time, he was 3-0 down, and White had darts to go 4-0 up. Anderson has pegged it back, is on the verge of levelling it all up at 3 legs all.
Well, Anderson not really making the most of that slack visit by White in his previous visit to the board, but he is down to 110.
Oh, double 18 now. Oh, great darts from Gary Anderson. Gets him right back in this game, and like we've said, Mike, how the game can turn on just a couple of darts. I mean, he had 1 dart left in his hand, wants double 5. It would have either been 4-0 down, but he's got it back, and he's got going, and he's pegged it all the way back.
And yes, the turbo certainly has been fired up now by the Scotsman. Straight after this game, we'll have our first semi-final. Jelle Klaassen against Justin Pipe.
Who won that race anyway? The hare or the tortoise?
And then after a second semi-final between Ronnie Baxter and one of these two gentlemen, we'll just have a little bit of an interval to let the players get their breaths back before we have the final of the German Darts Championship for 2014, with £20,000 up for grabs for the winner.
61, you require 84.
Well, he doesn't need to go the bullseye route, so we'll go 16s here instead of the 14s. That leaves double 8 just to the left of that on the wire. He's going to come back with at least another 3 darts.
81, you require 16.
Double 4 now to edge in front. Just on the wire. And yeah, sneaks it right in the corner. Well, White not really making the most of Anderson's 60 to open the leg, but getting a steady ton. And Anderson just going around the houses to find a treble.
Well, now it's Gary Anderson that's gone off the boil a bit, and Ian White has gone and found the treble himself again.
92.
And the leg by Anderson, it's a must win if he's to go on and win this game.
And both players just a little bit under par in this leg, but this is better from White if he can find another one of those trebles. Well, he is down to a finish. Great shot that there by Anderson.
Yes, very good darts from Gary Anderson. He's going to get 2 darts at a double when he comes back. Well, he's certainly going to get them now, as Ian White will only just set it up. The big 18 for double top for Gary Anderson. There's the big 18, the red bit at the top of the house, and he puts the dart smack bang in the middle, and we're at 4-all. Now it's a best of 3 game, with Ian White going to throw twice out of those 3 legs.
Yep, nothing to choose between them after the first 8 legs of this match.
This is a massive chance for Gary Anderson, these 3 darts. Another one of those gives him the throw. And that's the last thing he wanted to do. Just a little bit of a snatch. Could have really done with the 140 in that visit. Not really been punished, Anderson, so another chance here. A 140 is needed.
Well, he does respond with a 140, and that's what Anderson needs to go against the throw, but it won't happen now, so poor visit there by Anderson. And 99 to go to within one leg of the match.
59. Gary requires
Well, a poor visit, the last 3 darts. But Anderson now going to have 2 darts at the 20s. Well, 12 for double top to break the throw and to go within one leg. Oh, a brilliant 3 darts from Gary Anderson. It's unbelievable that the previous 3 darts were so poor, and then he just pulls it out of the bag. And that is Gary Anderson all over, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. That's why he's in the Premier League. That's why he's a joy to watch. The Ronnie O'Sullivan of darts.
When he needs it, it can pull out a big finish out of the top draw there. And again, White. Things could have been so much different for him, but Anderson really with a sucker punch and throwing first for the match here.
Well, I always seem to relate darts to other sports and match them up. And if Gary Anderson was a golfer, he'd be blasting them off the tee into the woods, hacking it out of there, putting a 3-iron to 2 foot and sinking the putt.
Would be a great time to bang in a 180. I was about to say it would be a great time to bang in a 180, and there he duly obliges to really turn the screw now, and he'll be back for 79. And as you were saying, Gary Anderson, when he needs to do it, he will find the darts from somewhere. Wants double top for the match, but he will be back with White still back on 236. Double top then for a European Tour semi-final place for Gary Anderson. Well, very little to choose between these two for the first 8 legs.
Gary Anderson steht im Halbfinale.
And getting over the
Durch
line,
diesen
took his place in the
6:4
semi-final
Erfolg
against
über
Ronnie
Ian White.
Baxter. That's the second semi-final. The first one is coming up in a couple of minutes' time. The Dutchman Jelle Claassen up against the Englishman Justin Pipe.
Applaus für the Diamonds, Ian White. Gary, congratulations. We all know that was not your